Yeah, I mean, happy almost New Year. 2023 has been a nightmare, and 2024 is shaping up to be about the same. So, I mean, I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope that something happens to, move us out of our malaise and create some ability to fight back against all of this. But it seems like if a black swan event happens, it'll benefit the other side and not the people who are saying, really, we should deal with these problems rather than create more fake realities on top of them to explain them away, right? Yeah, because explaining them away just adds more anxiety, because when your map of reality is incorrect and you use that map of reality to navigate reality and you show up in a place you didn't expect, that's anxiety inducing, right? And so the further away our maps of reality that we're supposed to use get from actual reality, the more high anxiety people get. And it's predictable. It's very, very predictable. One of the things that they're trying to do in Canada is fight poverty with a universal basic income. It's the exact wrong thing to do, as illustrated by what happened with CURB when they paid people to stay home. Inflation happened. Small businesses couldn't retain employees, and it didn't help the economy. It really hurt the economy in the long term and the short term. I don't think it made people more rich, and it made milk cost a lot more money, for crying out loud. Wall Street Silver is sharing this. Canada to implement a universal basic income of $2,000 per month. It doesn't matter how much money you make, you will be eligible for $2,000 per month. Now, this $2,000, this whole idea is coming from the Senate. It's another Senate bill. Same with the censorship bill, S210, that the Conservatives and the NDP are supporting. And it's got internet censorship on there as well, which is interesting. And they're hiding that under the idea of children shouldn't have the ability to access pornography. But the internet isn't theirs to govern. If you don't want your children to access pornography, you should put pornography blocks on the Wi-Fi that your children access. It seems straightforward to me. Use a pie hole, add the porn list, bingo, bango, bongo, you're done. Like, I don't think this is it's not hard. I don't think it's difficult. It's not physically difficult. Anyway, regardless, here's the problems with the UBI, which is coming from the Senate, as well as that internet censorship bill. It's inflationary. Here's a minute-long prepper on that.
Canadian could receive.
Oh, hold on, that's way too quiet. Give me a second. Okay, this should be a lot louder, but historically, I'm bad at remembering to take that to turn off the extra volume. So fingers crossed that I remember. Okay, here is what's going on and how inflationary this is. Here we go.
Every Canadian could receive $2,000 monthly. And this is a proposal that is currently in the Senate, and it could reach the House of Commons as early as next year. This is to fight poverty. Apparently, every single Canadian will get this credit regardless of your income if you are 17 years or older. This is pretty crazy. I hope that this doesn't fly. We all remember what happened with the CERB, the CERB, the overstimulation during COVID times. We are now paying for all of that, big time. That overstimulation created more harm than any good, to be honest. And I know during COVID times we needed some help, for sure. But in hindsight, now hopefully we have to learn the lesson, and this cannot happen. This will be an influx into the economy that will be highly inflationary. We don't need any of that right now. So what do you think? Do you think that every Canadian should get $2,000 monthly to fight poverty?
No, I don't. I absolutely 100% don't think that should happen at all. Here's Melissa Landsman saying it is absolutely unavoidable. This is what's going to happen. Here that is. This is from 2020, I think. Oh,
well, there's some political.
I just remembered. I'm sorry. Here we go.
Party's now saying, Melissa, that they want to have this as a steady thing, the minimum income.
Well, you know what? I actually do somewhat agree with that. And there's a conservative position on this. The universal income benefit, the thing that you're talking about, where you're giving people a living wage, that's going to come. And it could be that by a different name.
Doesn't sound very conservative to me, Melissa.
I actually think conservatives can own this, because you know what it does do? It does take government out of the mix of a bunch of means-tested programs thrown out of Ottawa by a bunch of bureaucrats, and gives everybody that thing that they need to get back to work. And we put that onto people, and we believe in them, and we try to get them out of poverty.
How are future governments
What? Here's $2,000. Get back to work. We believe in you. We're getting you out of poverty. I said yesterday, money's hard to use. If you're Fred Flintstone type, right? Fred Flintstone was quasi-responsible, Homer Simpson type, and he still fell into scams, right? He still would do things that were against what would be beneficial for him in the long term in order to pay off short term, right? I'm going to buy this sports car even though the payments are more than I can afford, whatever it is, whatever stupid thing that he could be talked into, right? And so handing money in the same sense over to somebody who's gullible or who will be an easy mark for somebody who calls on the phone and says you have a Visa payment that's overdue and you have to pay it. Anybody like that, and they're different, certainly, but money's hard to use. People get taken by scams. Elderly people get targeted because they're easier to scam than people who are my age or 25 because they're gullible or believe it or will fall for things because they don't know the technology exists, right? So there's all sorts of reasons not to just say this is the solution. Packaging up money and handing it out to people is the solution to fix poverty, because there might be a reason that the people who don't have money currently don't have money. And it might be because they don't know how to use the money. They gamble the money away. They drink the money away. They put it up their nose. They pay hookers or whatever their vice is, right? It's one of those things where if you say, listen, we're very tolerant. We in fact pay for your drugs if you go to the free injection site. Very, very tolerant. So you can do whatever you want with this money. All of a sudden, you get people who spend $2,000 and say that was a lovely evening. Thank you, the government. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, we intended that money, to lift you out of poverty, not for you to blow it on an evening out. But you can't control that. And like this whole idea, well, the whole idea is bunk. The whole idea is insane. It's crazy. Here's MM to help underline how crazy this is so I don't have to opine on it just by myself. Consider this, he says, universal basic income given to 5 million people at $2,000 per month. Canada has 40 million people. 40, okay? 40.5 million actually. That's 10 billion a month. That's just 5 million people. 10 billion with a B a month. That's 120 billion per year, which is 25% of Canada's federal budget. Where is that money going to come from when productive Canadians are already paying 50 to 60% of income to taxes? We'll just put it all into a big pot and you get out some of it sometimes. Unbelievable. And it would not work. It would not work practically. Paul Mitchell is going through this as well. He says the polls in Canada, this is an old thread, but he revived it. This is from August of this year, but he revived it yesterday because people are talking about this again and it seems to be moving through the Senate, or people are talking about it in the Senate. So he says, although the polls in Canada say the Trudeau Liberals would lose an election if one were held today, if things are looking really bad, then they will probably use the socialist weapon of mass destruction, universal basic income, free cash for life. Of course, this would cause massive inflation or the devaluing of the Canadian dollar, or both, but unsophisticated voters, especially in big cities, will almost certainly fall for this desperate ploy. Instead of, just quick, put a pin in this, because we're going to go through what he's saying here, but when I was younger, I wanted to win cash for life, the lottery, because I thought that $1,000 a week for life was very predictable and you could live off that. No matter what else happened, you had that $1,000 a week for life. That was a very good offer for me. I like that idea. But as I got older, I thought to myself, people make assets that yield much more than that, much higher yield assets than winning a lottery. And I thought, how much do you have to invest to create one of those assets? And I know that now, and I'd much rather hold one of those assets than win a lottery. Holy smoke. And because you can make more of them, right? You can make 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 7 and then 10 and then 12 and so on and so on. And so if you invest in skills rather than invest in luck and closing your eyes and throwing your dart at the dartboard, you'll probably yield better results. I thought to myself when I was young, when I was 14, 15, whenever Cash for Life came out, I remember the commercials. I loved them. And my dad loves scratchy tickets, right? Who doesn't love scratchy tickets? Although they do take time. But it's one of those things where if you if you don't understand what else is out there, what might be better, then you might also fall in love with scratchy tickets, whereas falling in love with learning how to create your own assets might be better. Okay, back to this. In this situation, what would the Conservatives do? Well, we just heard Melissa Lantsman say UBI's coming, baby. It's coming. And the Conservatives could own this. Now, on one side, she's saying that if you get rid of all the social programs and just do this, that's better. But it's probably not, right? Because if the social programs actually address social issues, then just here's a bunch of money doesn't work for the various reasons I laid out previously. So what would the Conservatives do? It's not a compelling offer for Melissa Lantsman in 2020. Back to this. They better be ready, because if they aren't and the Liberals pull off a win, Canada will self-destruct quickly. If I was Poilievre, and probably what he'll do, maybe not, I don't know, he'll have Lantsman lead the UBI file and have her shape her comments to modernize them to whatever Poilievre wants in his policy. So rather than have her walk back her statements, he'll have her evolve her statements. Back to this. Just imagine the awful combination of mass immigration with massive cash giveaways. We will have every freeloader on the planet headed our way. Just imagine the devastating impact on small and medium-sized business, who will no longer be able to hire or retain staff. And let's not forget the next generation of graduates who will likely choose playing video games over work. Well, if they're streaming the video games, what's the problem? Twitch profit shares. Come on, Dad. I didn't. Never mind. When money is given away, the price of everything will skyrocket, and before long, these universal basic income payments will not have the purchasing power to keep people afloat. I mean, that's what I was worried about with jobs. But yes, the same argument applies here. It won't take long for a total implosion, and don't think it can't happen. It can, and it probably will, if not during the next election, then probably the one after that. It takes decades or even centuries to build a society. It only takes a short period of time to destroy everything that was built. Are you ready? No, emphatically not. So it seems like a very, very bad idea to do what we're doing, and yet we continue to double down on bad ideas every other day. Clifford points this out. This is foreign. This isn't Canadian, but he's pointing this out in, I think it's Ireland. Many social welfare schemes, and make no mistake, UBI, Universal Basic Income, is a social welfare scheme. In Ireland, exhibit a notable trend. Non-Irish citizens are disproportionately represented, surpassing their 12% share of the population as per the 2022 census. This pattern has been evidenced since at least 2014. A detailed thread follows. So it's interesting because Clifford's going through how all of these social programs have a lot more foreigners than they do Irish citizens taking advantage of them. And that trend has been clear in the data for a very, very long time, since at least a decade anyway. And how is that a sustainable way to run the country? And if you have UBI, similar is going to happen, and the recipients of it, well, it's going to be exactly the same thing that happened in the Toronto shelters. How many people actually grew up in Toronto or actually grew up in Canada at all? And what's the percentage of Canadian citizens in the shelter? I think it's less than 10% in Toronto. I think it's honestly 90% foreign born people in the shelters. And that's incredible. And not to mention the foreign people who were putting up in hotels. What? Yeah. You're not kidding. Holy smoke. Financial Post says banks shed 60,000 jobs in one of the worst years for cuts since financial crisis, so since 2008. And the trend is set to continue over the coming year amid subdued deal making and listing activity. So the financial activity, I don't have access to this, so I can't read any more of that. So that's just a taste. If you're interested, link is in the description if you want to read more. But fundamentally, with that as the backdrop, we've got the government saying, what do you think? Universal basic income? All of these bankers are losing their jobs. Shall we give them $2,000 each a month? Why, yes, we should, says the bankers. It's not surprising what's going on, but I think it's obvious that we could not pay for it. Not even pretending we could pay for it. We couldn't pay for it, not even close. End wokeness, says California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a law to raise the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 per hour. In response to the new law, California Pizza Hut operators are laying off all of their delivery drivers 1 month before the law goes into effect. 12,000 jobs eliminated overnight. Other fast food chains in California have announced price hikes on the menu. So in order to facilitate this, they have to increase the price, and it's inflationary. It doesn't help. It's more money chasing the same goods. It makes the goods cost more. That's all it does. James Lindsay is talking about natural asset companies. I've talked to you about natural asset companies recently, but it goes here because it's important. And he says, this is just the too long didn't read at the end of the thread here. He says, we need to understand how natural asset companies work. Normal companies hold property like factories, hardware, land, and intellectual property. NACs appear to focus on holding the right to manage natural assets, such as forests, farmlands, and coral reefs. An NAC, on the other hand, is not allowed to use cash on its unsustainable activities, which includes mining. They're intrinsically designed around making it falsely and insanely profitable to do ESG in line with very radical degrowth agendas. Normal companies try to assess the value of their property using standard accounting. So how much money is in the bank? How much is going into payroll? How much are our patents worth? The natural asset company scam looks to get around that by creating its own voodoo accounting. NACs will try to assess the value of their property and services using a new accounting methodology, the IEG, Ecological Performance Reporting Framework, which is established in the United Nations System of Environmental Economic Accounting Ecosystem Accounting Framework. The goal is to shift us off the real economy and onto their corrupt degrowth distribution communism well-being economy, which is completely in line with everything in the degrowth communism system. That is, NACs are the gateway to 21st century communism globally. How do they work? It's all in the voodoo accounting. If you file as a public company today, you have to follow standard accounting rules as described above and get audited by accounting firm to make sure that you actually have the money and assets they claim, so investors don't get screwed. Now imagine if Enron could have said back in 1999, we're totally bogus under standard accounting, but under this new accounting system we invented, we're totally legit. That's what NACs do with their voodoo accounting for sustainability, equity, and well-being. To give you an idea of how a non-standard accounting system could be an issue, consider this scenario. Imagine you wish to buy a copper mine. It's for sale now at $50 million US dollars. You believe there's $100 million US dollars worth of copper in it that can be extracted over time. You don't have $50 million, so you get financing or borrow from a bank and a set of investors. If you succeed in extracting the full amount of copper, you make a profit of $50 million minus the labor, equipment, and interest cost over the term of the loan. That's pretty standard. Imagine you fail to extract any copper, then your investment was a loss, and since you will now not be able to pay back your loans or investors, you will go bankrupt. This is how business is supposed to work. Reward guesses and work that produce value, punish failure. But what if you were allowed to shut down the mine and claim you were producing ecological value and then be able to be paid from another firm for shutting down the mine and keeping it inoperable? Suddenly you're doing great, an ecological hero, and turning a huge profit. This is how the natural asset company scam works. Combine this with some carbon credit schemes, and you can see how this completely distorts the productivity mechanism of capitalism. It creates a fake sustainable capitalism far more directly than ESG cartel manipulation. Sounds simplistic, but that's really what it's doing, creating assets out of ecosystem services in line with ESG that the United Nations Agenda 2030 and 3030, total manipulative scam. Huge institutional investors, stakeholders will control these. We all pay. So yeah, pretty wild stuff, and I don't think he's far off. Here's Garnet Genius, and he's talking about liberal subsidies will go to foreign replacement workers, and the NDP are helping them cover up the details. So I was just trying to show you how UBI is very destructive, and they're trying to bring it in, and financially, fiscally, a lot of these issues are cropping up, and they're going to be utilizing these instruments, because they're financial instruments, to back up their ESG stuff, their 2030 agenda, and carbon tax, climate change nonsense. All of it is coalescing to back up and underpin the foundations for the post-2030 world. That's what we're looking at. Canadians paying millions of dollars to Taiwanese companies or South Korean companies to then pay South Koreans to come to Canada and build batteries in Canada because we lack the expertise. Weird. It's a really strange thing, but this is the structure of theft of our productivity. Our tax dollars go into the government. The government is borrowing money that we have to pay back by raising taxes on us. But all of that, the government is spending money in foreign countries on foreign workers, and Canadians are getting shafted. all using our tax dollars. And so it's not great. UBI will destroy our economy even further, and we'll be blamed for it because we're bad or something like that. And then they'll come in and, well, they'll use the NAC mechanism, natural asset company mechanism, I'm sure, to destroy Canada even further. But the goal is chaos, and then out of chaos, order, and it'll be their order with digital IDs and all the rest of it. So I don't know, very interesting stuff. Suzanne Ellen, and the other part of this is foreign countries have influence in our government currently, and that's weird because we know about it and nobody's doing a damn thing about it. And we know that the review that they're doing, it's not a special rapporteur, but there's it's special investigation. I can't remember the name of this one, right? Because we've had so many things. The Rouleau report, Johnston rapporteur, now this one, the foreign inquiry, blah, 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 nonsense. But we know about this, and there's no movement on it. Sam Cooper's reporting, according to national security sources, an elite politician handpicked by Justin Trudeau, Liberal minister Mary Ng, was identified in CSIS investigations as one of the 11 Toronto area candidates clandestinely supported by Chinese consulate influence networks in the 2019 election. So, I mean, that's pretty crazy stuff, man. It's pretty wild, I think, right? And Suzanne says, Mary Ng already had an ethics breach and refused to resign. Nothing would surprise Canadians anymore with the Trudeau Liberals. I think it's hilarious that Justin Trudeau gets away with having an ethics breaching minister, and further, an ethics breaching minister who is helped clandestinely by the Chinese consulate influence networks. So that's wild, right? Very, very brazen kind of behavior, if you ask me. Contrarians pointing this out, Canada ready to pay settlements to Michael Spavor and Corvig after 2018 imprisonment in China. Remember when they showed up to this event thing, and you can see her head here. She's not standing with this, but they showed up there with their Chinese girlfriends, which struck me as strange. It's a really weird way to show up, right? And Contrarian says Trudeau is 100% responsible for the two Michaels' length of detainment. Just imagine if they would have been gay or minorities, or how things would have been different. I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all. Now they're getting settlements between $3 and $10 million each. How do you feel about this? Well, I feel I don't feel good about it. Bert says, why is Ottawa giving the two Michaels millions of dollars each? Canada did not imprison them. That's a good point. Could it be to shut them up, sign NDAs, and fade away? Another Liberal cover-up of malfeasance and outrageous incompetence. So Chinese girlfriends, millions of bucks. One of them was a spy and trapped the other one. So I think Spavor, not Corvig. This article talks about which one had intelligence about North Korea that was shared with the other Michael, and the other Michael got them both imprisoned. I guess that's kind of the story. But this is an older story from a month ago from the Toronto Star. This is an editorial. New questions about Canada's two Michaels. And it says, a startling report in the Globe and Mail on Saturday that one of Canada's two Michaels is blaming the other for intelligence work that led to both men being arrested by China for spying raises new questions about everything Canadians have been told about the incident. According to the report, based on the sources granted anonymity by the Globe and Mail, Michael Spavor is seeking a multi-million-dollar settlement from the federal government for his incarceration by China for 1,020 days from December 2018 until both men were freed in September 21. The Globe reported that Spavor, who is fluent in Korean and is one of only a few Westerners who has met North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, alleges he was arrested because he unwittingly provided intelligence on North Korea to Canada and its Five Eyes intelligence sharing network consisting of Canada, the US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. Spavor alleges that this was due to a deception by fellow detainee Corvig, and that it was Corvig's intelligence work that led to the arrest of both men in China. Yikes, right? So I think maybe, if it was Corvig who got them arrested, and Spavor is a victim of a deception by Corvig that got him arrested, I'm cool with Spavor getting money. I'm less cool with Corvig getting money. Who did he work for? Does he work for Canada? What? Like, there's lots of questions here. But I mean, like, if somebody's a victim, if you go out for dinner, somebody approaches you professionally and they're like, listen, really, I read your book. I'd really like to talk to you. Or I heard you're fluent in Korean. And then he says something in Korean. I'd like to have dinner with you or something like that. Then you go and you do that dinner for whatever reason, to your own reasons, right? You're intrigued by whatever the person says. You go have dinner, and the person's goal is to get this little intelligence out of you. And you give them the intelligence. That you're being victimized. I think that you deserve, and then you get imprisoned from 2018 to 2021. I think you deserve some compensation, right? But if you're the guy who's like, tell me all you know about the North Korean Kim Jong-un, and then you get everybody arrested, I'm not giving you millions of bucks, man. Like, you kind of effed up here. Like, I've seen James Bond. That's not how this works. Like, so I don't know, man. I don't know about Corvig getting money. Like, if he's like, hold on, I was in prison just like he was. It was your fault, man. Without you, none of this would have gone sideways. So I don't know. The whole thing seems not good. Not good. This also doesn't seem good. This is Tedros, and he is talking about food. He's saying climate change. We need to crack down on the food because climate change, nitrous oxide in fertilizers, super dangerous. Super dangerous. Not eating, less dangerous than the nitrous oxide. Bull poop. Absolute nonsense. And Wide Awake Media says WHO head Tedros declares war on meat and traditional agriculture in the name of fighting climate change. And here's what he says. Here we go.
Our food systems are harming the health of people and planet.
No, they're not. They're not. Don't believe this nonsense. I just want to make sure you understand that the food systems that have been developed by humans over the last centuries are not harming the planet. Okay, they're not harming it. They're not harming anything. They're not harming anything. This guy is harming things, but the agriculture is not harming them. It's not doing that. Here we go.
Food systems contribute to over 30% of greenhouse gas emissions and account for almost 1/3 of
You want to go back to oxen? You want to go back to oxen? Is that what you want to do? You moron.
the global burden of disease. Transforming food systems is therefore essential by shifting towards healthier, diversified, and more plant-based diets. If food systems delivered healthy diets for all, we could save 8 million lives per year. WHO is committed to supporting countries to develop and implement policies to improve diets and fight climate change. I'm therefore very
If they're improving diets and fighting climate change, it's a win-win.
pleased that over 130 countries have signed the COP28 UAE Declaration on Climate and Health. Together, we can protect and promote the health of both people and planet. I thank you.
Nope. This is a warning, and not, they're actually going for this kind of stuff. In order to comply with climate change rules, you're going to have a plant-based diet. That's what they want. And that's just wild. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful